Hi, my name is Ben from Wobi Design, and today we're going to talk about Maxxair fan and why I think this is the best one on the market. Now, one of the main reasons why I'm installing a fan is so that I could circulate the air inside the van so that I could be a little bit more comfortable, as well as exhaust all the air out while I'm cooking or taking a shower so that none of the moisture gets trapped inside the van. Now, I look for different fans out there on the market, and I really haven't seen anything that comes close to these Maxxair fans. And these Maxxair fans are bi-directional, so you could suck air in or pull air out. Now, the biggest advantage of having Maxxair fan is that you can still use them while it's raining outside. There's different models available, as well as different colors, 10 different speed settings, a remote controller, so check it out. I heard nothing but great things about these Maxxair fans. Now, in order to make this install go a little bit smoother, I bought these adapters online, and these are designed in a way that it fits perfectly onto the Sprinter van roof, and you could find these for the ProMaster as well as Ford Transit. Now, for the inside of the van, I decided to make my own frame using my CNC machine, and it's just 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood that's glued together. And you don't really have to make an inner frame for the Maxxair fan, and you could screw directly onto the sheet metal, but I just wanted the screws to bite onto something, and this should make it extra secure. Once I had all the parts ready, I used the adapter to locate where I'm going to cut the hole. I decided to install it at the front of the van since this is where my shower, toilet, and kitchen will be located. And for many first-timers out there, this is the true start of your conversion and the biggest fear that's holding you back from starting, which is cutting a giant hole in your van, especially if you pay $55,000 for it. And once you cut it, there is no going back. All right, people, the lines are marked, camera is ready, I got this shop vac ready. I made this little drill attachment to catch any of the debris, but I don't think it's gonna work. But I'm just trying to grow some balls and drill the, and yeah, I'm just scared. Now, to be completely honest, it took me about an hour before I started drilling these holes. I'm using step drill bits to drill holes just big enough so that the jigsaw blades could fit in. Now, I tried my best to manage the metal chips, and it kind of worked, but I'll show you in the next video how I perfected this method. And just make sure to wear safety goggles for this, because you really don't want any metal shavings in your eye. I am scared. Once I had the holes drilled, I taped a large trash bag to catch any metal shavings when I'm cutting the van with the jigsaw. Perfect. On the roof, I used the adapter and locate where to mark the line using the pilot holes that have been drilled. And this adapter makes it easy since it fits perfectly into the grooves and the sides are rounded for an exact fit. I taped up the outside to prevent scratching the paint with the jigsaw and loose metal shavings. I'm spacing out about 1/4 inch from the line so that I can keep the tape on while I'm applying Rust-Oleum to prevent it from rusting. To cut the hole, I'm using a jigsaw with a metal cutting jigsaw blade. Since the metal is very thin, it's pretty easy to control and follow the line. Just go slow and steady and focus on staying on the line, and there is no reason to rush or go fast. Make sure your jigsaw setting is set so that there is no orbital movement. With the jigsaw, you can always stop and take a rest and readjust your body, so take your time. For the last line, support the sheet metal with a strip of wood or the adapter if it's near you. Be extra careful since this will have the least amount of support. Finish cutting each corner so that it's perfectly squared, and file the edges so you don't have any sharp metal edges. I wiped it down with acetone and applied a coat of Rust-Oleum to protect the raw metal edges. I can then take off the tape and let the paint dry for about an hour. Yes! Once the paint has dried, I clamp the main fan frame, the adapter, and the inner frame together. I can then drill pilot holes through the metal, which should make it easier to screw the screws. I taped the outside of the adapter and spaced out about 1/4 inch for caulking. I also have to prep the surface for the adhesive that I'll be using for the adapter. I just have to lightly sand with 200 grit and wipe it down with acetone. I'm applying butyl tape on the bottom edge of the main fan frame. The butyl tape is easy to shape and mold, so it shouldn't be hard to go around the corners. Insert the adapter and apply the recommended adhesive. I'm using 3M window weld as recommended, and I applied it on the adapter. This has more to do with the adapter and the inner frame getting glued together rather than making this sealed and watertight. I carefully aligned the frame and dropped in the main fan frame into the hole. I pressed it down to make sure it makes a good contact. From the inside, I can attach the inner frame and clamp it down. I can then drive in the screws. I can also gauge how tight it is by the amount of squeeze out I get on the butyl tape. And make sure to clamp it down before you drive in the screws, because this is exactly what could happen, and it could be prevented. Make sure to go zigzag when you're driving in these screws so you're not creating any pockets or any gaps. And once everything is secured, I can clean up the butyl tape by just pressing it in and making sure that there is no gap. And then I'm ready to seal everything watertight. To seal everything, I'm using Sikaflex 221. This is a sealant and adhesive that is flexible and waterproof. It is resistant to weathering exposure and creates a permanent elastic bond. Now, this is my first time caulking, and I really thought I could do it better than what I just did here. But luckily I put tape on before, so I just used my fingers to smooth everything out, and I peeled the tape off and gave me a pretty decent result. I also sealed all the screw holes. And this stuff is pretty thick, so it's pretty hard to control, so I did the best I could. Luckily, this will be hardly visible, and the main point is to seal everything up so none of the water gets in. Once the sealant hardens after a few hours, you're ready to install the Maxxair fan. Raise the metal clip as high as you can while still being able to see the hole. This should make it easier to screw in the screws to secure the fan to the frame. Insert the Maxxair fan. Make sure it's oriented in the right direction. Also, be careful with the wires that's connected to the fan on the inside. Line up and screw in the 2 screws on each side. Make sure to hand tighten them so you don't strip the screws. Once you screw it in, you're done. We're done. Woo! Now, I tested the fan using a 12-volt battery, and it seems to work just fine. Oops. It works. We're good. Whew! Also, I originally wanted to keep this plastic film to protect it, but I guess if you bake this in the sun for too long, it makes it super difficult to take off, so I just took this off the next day. Okay, so this is how I installed Maxxair fan on my van. Now, currently I don't have the electrical setup, so I'm not able to fully test it, but I'll keep you updated once I have the electrical setup. Now, one thing to look into is something called a voltage regulator for these Maxxair fans. I don't know too much about it, but from what I hear, these fans start causing issues once they start drawing something over 13.6 volts or something. Don't take my word for it. And something about these fans having a cheap circuit board that constantly needs to be replaced. Seriously, I don't know anything about it. And if you have experience with changing these circuit boards and having issues with your Maxxair fan, please do enlighten us down in the comments below. Okay? Now, the entire process of installing a Maxxair fan shouldn't take more than a few hours. But overcoming the fear of cutting into a brand new van is something that might take more than a few hours. So I just made sure to double check everything and took my time to do things properly and learn as much as I can while I'm cutting, because I have a lot more things to cut into the van. And I think the most important part of this whole entire process is sealing everything watertight. Now, I did a water test once the sealant fully cured and I didn't see any leaks. And a few days after that, there was a rainstorm in LA and I didn't see any leaks and it rained for like 6 hours straight. So I think we're good. Now, I highly recommend getting these adapters for your Maxxair fan because it's gonna contour perfectly onto the shape of your roof. And these adapters prevent you from having any gaps, and some of these roof installs, you know, they're using butyl tape to layer it up. And I think it's worth the money having a proper part for your install. Now, do what you want. Okay, so that's it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a video for this whole entire van series. And check out my website. I have fresh new t-shirts available on my website, which is woby.design. And if you want to support this channel, make sure to check out my Patreon page. I have a ton of rewards and I have boxes of skateboard scraps that you can grab, so make sure to check that out. Thanks again, and until next time. Your boy did it! Woo! Had some dust, but it was pretty easy. Very happy.